Well, we're back again with none other than NFL Hall of Famer, former Florida State great. But what I like to say is he's an Allisonville great. See, that's what he's most important, happy about. Is none other than Walter Jones, another edition of our Words with Walter, down to the final 4 weeks of the high school football regular season. Walter joining us from Seattle, doing some amazing work there each week with the Seattle Seahawks as they prepare for another matchup this week as well. But Walter, first off, thanks for taking time with us yet again to kind of close out the season here. But I did want to ask you as we continue to kind of nurture and kind of show some sort of guidance to student athletes across our area. Another hot topic for a lot of high school athletes is preparation. And I know that you want to try to put in as much work as possible when you're in the winter conditioning in spring and fall camp, but the preparation that it takes each and every Friday night to prepare yourself to play at a high level or any student athlete during the week. I understand that we're still young kids, but at the same time, in this day and age, you got to stay ready. Walk us through just your advice to some youngsters and kids that like to play at a high level and want to compete at a high level to continue to have success on the playing field.
I think the number one thing is being in shape. And nowadays, back when we was playing, you got in shape when you got to camp or something like this. But now you have to be ready whenever it's time to play football. So I would say that, and then hydration. And I think the number one thing too, I think a lot of times, you got to be able to prioritize work, practice, and schooling too, though, because that's the most important thing. So for me personally, then know the playbook too. I think if you know the playbook or you try to be the coach on the football field, I think a lot of times with that, I think once you learn that aspect of the game and understand what the coach wants you to do on the field, that's when the game is fun. So it's all about playing and not thinking. So once you're not thinking when you're playing the game of football, that's when the game comes so much fun.
I wanted to ask you, you've seen it throughout your entire career, even from the high school level, of course, through the professional level, how many people, athletes, have maybe missed an opportunity because you weren't prepared. And
Mhm.
what I mean by that is, as you mentioned, film study on the field, practice during the week, walkthroughs. Walk us through just how important it is to be ready in every facet before you actually step on the football playing field or the athletic playing field.
You got to be ready. Like we see, like you said, we see it all the time where the next man up, and you hear a lot of, most of the time you hear it probably with the quarterback, but it's everybody, every position. You always have a backup, so you have to prepare like you're going to start because you see the game, and that's one play. That's a true statement. I guess as a young kid, you hear it, and you thinking the coach, you as a young person, you're trying to say, next man up. You're an injury away from being in the game. So I think for me personally, like I said earlier, you have to be prepared and ready. Prepare like you practice, and a lot of times that's sometimes it's the struggle with playing a game of football. If you're not a starter, it's all about being ready to be prepared. And I think that those are the things that the kids have to definitely be ready to play. Some kids want to play right now, but sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture and understand that if someone get hurt, I'm ready to play because I'm studying the playbook. I'm ready. It's just a matter when my time comes. And some kids can see that, and some kids can't. Some you see guys leaving or guys get in the portal and all this stuff. So that's just the way it is. I think they'll get a hold of that sooner or later. Just it's still new, and then those rules going to come out. But still, again, you have to be ready to play. And I think a lot of time with these kids now, it's all about being toughness too. Go through the hard pains too. If a coach telling you something as a senior in high school, and then when you get to that school, things don't play out the way they're supposed to play out. I think a lot of times kids need to, go through those struggles. I think it prepares you for life lessons on things that might not go your way, but how do you get through those things?
That's a great point. I want to piggyback off of what you mentioned. Patience for any of us, even adults. I'm 42, man, and patience is it runs thin for me for me. But you know this, like Walt, like you it's hard for someone my age to or full-fledged adults to be patient. It's human nature. But you're asking a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old young student athlete, regardless of what sport or even on the football playing field, to have that. How difficult is that? And how do you, with so many of your bros and so many of your family members and former teammates that have kids that are playing high level athletics, how do you kind of balance that and kind of walk them through just the patience of being able to accomplish what you want to accomplish down the line?
I always say, be in the moment. A lot of times, it's like you said, it's hard for kids, and I think you got to have a balanced life too. I think you have to still be able to enjoy things outside of the game of football too. I think you can, like they always say, disconnect from the game. But these guys, like you said, these kids are playing at a high level where football never stops. You're playing, football, basketball. You're playing that year round. Now, if this your sport, you're playing the year round. So I think it's all about enjoying the moment. I tell people all the time, like, if FSU is not playing good or they haven't looked good for the first couple of years, if you support, you love it. And I tell people you'd enjoy the moment once things flip, and then now you see the enjoyment of winning. And then you go back to those moments of when, okay, we was 2-8 last year, or this, we wasn't doing this, but now that you just see the turnaround, and most kids know it. Most kids know it. Most players know it. You hear guys talk about it all the time. You can feel a difference in the change when it happened. But I think you have to be in the moment, be patient, be in the moment. Like you say, that's hard to tell a kid to be patient, but it's all about being in the moment. Understand the process. The process is what they say, you work during the week and then you have fun on Friday night, or you have fun on Saturday and Sunday. So I think that's the way you have to look at it. Like, hey, I'm putting my work in. Then when I get on the field on Friday night, that I'm showing you guys my work. The work. That's with us too. We do things. You do stuff behind the scene, and then all of a sudden, once you get here, this is your baby here. So now you're ready to show. This is what I know. And so I would just tell kids to be patient, and when your time come, or when that light come on, be ready to shine.
We are going to continue to have this amazing conversation throughout the high school football season as we wind down the final month of the year before we head into the postseason. Walter Jones will be with us each and every Wednesday night. You can watch our full in episode in its entirety immediately following our 10 p.m. newscast. We make sure that we preview this throughout the week as well. So big thanks to Walt as we move on to another week of high school football as we wind down the high school football season.